How y'all doing?
Hello. It's been a minute. It's been a couple of months, in fact. And you're probably like, Jamila, where have you been? And that's a great question. Your girl was feeling a little burnt out, especially from school. But I'm happy to report that I am done with law school. Can I get a round of applause? Thank you. Thank you. It has been a lot of stress these last few months, just trying to finish out the year. Had a lot of, events and like different stuff for school groups. Anyway, I won't get into it, but I'm here, I'm back, and I just wanted to let y'all know about what I've been reading over the last few months. I haven't done a wrap up for February, March, or April, so I'm going to do that all in this video. I will be running through these a little bit quicker than I usually would, just because there are kind of a lot of books to get through. I was not reading a lot towards the last 6 weeks before May, just because I was so busy with school and studying and all that stuff. So anyways, I've been very active on TikTok, so if you want to come join me over on Book Talk, it's a blast. We have a good time. Okay. It's a little wild time. Anyways, you can go follow me on there if you want to be more up to date. I was doing quick monthly wrap-ups over there too, so if you ever want to know what I'm up to, I guess. I don't know why. Anyways, also I noticed there's 900 of y'all here. I don't know how I gained a little over 100 subscribers during the time I was away. Considering I was not posting content, and even preceding that, I was not posting content consistently. But hey, I'm happy to have you here. Let's get into it. Alrighty, so let's start with February. I read a lot of great books. I only read from Black authors. It was a great time. It was not really new for me, I guess, because I typically read a lot from Black authors. But anyways, I started off strong with this graphic novel, Far Sector. It's written by N.K. Jemisin, who I love, and the art is done by Jamal Campbell, and the art in here is just absolutely stunning. I don't know if you can really tell. I might insert some pictures or whatever, but this is a Green Lantern comic, and it's a part of the new DC's Young Animal imprint, which is co-founded by Gerard Way of My Chemical Romance fame. I don't read superhero comics typically, especially not from DC. No hate to DC, but I'm more of a Marvel girly. And I don't know much about Green Lantern except for that really terrible movie that was made with Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively. So I was a little bit hesitant to pick this up, but I love N.K. Jemisin, and I've been hearing good things about it, and you don't need to know really much of anything about Green Lantern to read this. It's pretty self-contained, I would say. We're following Sojourner Moulin, goes by Jo. She is a Green Lantern and gets sent to this planet called the City Enduring. And this is a place where there has not been crime or violence in centuries. And so when she's there is someone, she actually gets called in to investigate the first murder that's happened in a long time. And there's 3 different groups of people, or beings rather. They're not humans, and all that stuff. There's a lot of political intrigue, some mysteries, crime solving stuff, some superhero power stuff. I mean, what more can you ask for from a graphic novel? I will say, I gave this 5 stars, but I will say it is a little bit more wordy than I would like in a comic or a graphic novel. But overall, I really enjoyed this. And I guess now I'm kind of interested. I don't know if she's in any of the other Green Lantern comics or whatever. But anyways, 5 stars. Show-stopping, amazing, brilliant, beautiful. Then I read at the time I read an arc of Like a Sister by Kelly Garrett. I listened to the advanced listeners copy from Libro FM's influencer program, and I gave this one 2 stars. I did not like this. It was intriguing enough to get me to continue and finish the story because I really wanted to know what happened. We're following Lena, her half-sister, who was I guess a low level celebrity. She was like in a reality TV show, and she's kind of like a big influencer and all that stuff. Her sister dies the morning of her 25th birthday, and so Lena is trying to figure out what happened to her sister. There's like some really weird circumstances going on, blah blah blah. Yeah, so I didn't, honestly, this was kind of forgettable. Like, it's been a couple months now since I read this, but I just remember like okay, here's the thing. This is what would happen. I kept getting confused at all of the like revelations that were happening throughout the story. Like, each chapter would kind of end on like a, like, well, not each chapter, but whenever like a chapter ended, there would be like a reveal or some sort of like revelation that Lena made about the case, right? And I never understood like how she got to that point. Like, it felt like I was missing something. Like, all of a sudden she's like, and this is what must have happened. And I'm like, how did we get there? Like, how did we get there? And that kept happening. And at first I thought it was because I was listening to the audiobook and I was listening to it on my commute to school. And, you know, maybe I just wasn't like paying attention and missed something, but it like kept happening over and over again. And I was just really confused by like all of the leaps that Lena was making. There was just like no explanation. It was just like, this is what happened. And I guess that's what happened. I feel like there was this theme running throughout this book where Lena kept talking about how, you know, like, Black women, you know, just have to endure and like power through, which obviously is very true. But she kept referencing like, you know, the Black woman superhero cape, you know, like, I put it on and like just deal with it, I'll grieve later kind of thing. And this phrase kept getting repeated, and like, to the point where I found it a little bit annoying because, like, okay, I feel like most people already know. Well, maybe not. And that's why it felt like, okay, I'm all over the place. This book kind of felt like it was maybe geared towards a white audience, which there's nothing wrong with that. But it's just like, Black women know like how we have to interact in society and how, you know, we're forced to be like the strong Black woman or whatever. And like, so that rhetoric kept being brought up in the book, but then it didn't go anywhere. Like, what was the point? Like, what was, like, we didn't get to see, like, Lena being vulnerable. We didn't see, like, any sort of, like, realization around that. I don't know. There was a lot of things like that, little things about, like, race that would be brought up that were just so, like, basic knowledge at this point that I'm like, what is the purpose of adding this? Like, where are we going with this? Especially because, like, none of that really got resolved. I don't know. It was really weird. The pacing was really weird. I really did not enjoy this book. What I did enjoy, though, was Amari and the Night Brothers by B.B. Alston. This is a middle grade fantasy, the first in a fantasy trilogy, I think, about Amari. Her older brother has gone missing, and she discovers that he was an agent for the Bureau of Supernatural Affairs. He's like an investigative agent, the Department of like Investigations or something like that. And so there's like supernatural beings in the world. Think of it as like Men in Black, okay? Except not aliens. Basically, Amari gets a letter nominating her to join the Bureau of Supernatural Affairs. She joins mostly hoping to just discover what happened to her brother, but then kind of gets involved in this whole thing, and it turns out that she has this magic that is forbidden and all that stuff. It was just so much fun. You know, it's like everything that you could want from a middle grade fantasy book. Just like a lot of adventure, mostly low stakes, but like touching on some like issues that would be great for like young readers to like learn about and deal with. And it was just a fun time, and I'm so excited for the second book. Amari is a great protagonist. She's so much fun. I definitely wish I had a book like this growing up when I was in like elementary and middle school, but I'm just excited that this is around, and it was so much fun to read. Then for my local book club, the February pick was The Secret Lives of Church Ladies by D. Shaw Philia. This is a collection of short stories that are following different Black women and kind of their experience related to the church, the Christian church. That sounded Christian church. Guys, I'm not Christian, so I really don't know like which like denomination was like relevant here. I'm assuming like Baptist? I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know anything about Christianity, to be quite honest with you. But I really enjoyed this, which again, this was another book that I was like a little bit hesitant to read because, like I said, I did not grow up Christian. I did not grow up going to a church. So I didn't know if I was really going to relate a lot to the experiences of this book. But Disha Philia has amazing writing prowess. Like, it was so interesting to read and learn about these different women and their experiences. And from what I can tell from the other people from my book club, this like was really impactful and really meaningful for them, which is awesome. I don't think it like was like as super impactful for me, but I did find a lot of meaning in this book, I guess. I don't really know how to talk about it, but yeah, there's like a bunch of different short stories. I'm definitely gonna check out other stuff from Disha Philia in the future. My favorite, let me look here. My favorite stories were Dear Sister, Peach Cobbler, How to Make Love to a Physicist in Jail. Yeah, good stuff. Then I picked up Sorrowland by River Solomon. I have been meaning to read books from River Solomon for a while now. I own all of their books and they've just been sitting on my shelves, and I finally decided to pick up Sorrowland. I read this like in a day, which I don't know if that was a good thing or not, because this is a very heavy and dark book, but also it was kind of like unputdownable. So we have Vern. At the start of this story, she is 7 months pregnant. She's really young, and she's fleeing from her strict, like religious compound that she grew up. Basically, it was like a religious cult. She leaves, she gives birth to twins in the forest and kind of just like makes the forest her home, and raises them there. But she is still being like hunted by the community that she left, and she's also kind of undergoing this like metamorphosis in her body. She's like getting stronger and all these weird things are happening. She encounters some other people, and they're trying to like basically take down this religious cult, all while trying to figure out like what is going on with Vern's like body changing. Be warned, I would definitely check out the trigger warnings. You can look them up on booktriggerwarnings.com or Storygraph. I will link all of Storygraph and book trigger warnings in the description so that you can check out the content warnings for all of the books that I'm going to be mentioning in this video. But in particular, this one like is very dark, like body horror, racism, violence, medical violence. Yeah, that's all I can think of off the top of my head. But this was really good. I mean, River Solomons is a really good writer. I can't wait to read their other works. I don't really know what to say about this book. I've been struggling to talk about this book since I read it. It's just kind of like you have to read it. You have to read it to understand, you know what I'm saying? Pick it up. Then to wrap things up, in February, I read Love Scammed by Rilsey Adams. This is a romance, spicy romance novella following Monet and Hudson. They get tricked by their friends, basically like a blind date, but like a blind vacation. And they get tricked. They're upset, obviously, but then they go on this vacation to Turks and Caicos together, and, you know, obviously sparks fly. You know how it is. I mean, here's the thing. I love Rilsey Adams. Like, all of her books, like, really hit the spot in the moment, and they're, like, so much fun to read, and there's always, like, really great chemistry with the characters. But, like, I don't really, like, remember the details all that much, like, afterwards. But, like, if you're looking for a fun, quick romance in the moment, like, check out Rilsey Adams' work. Okay, transitioning over to March. Starting off poorly. I actually started reading Beasts of Prey by Anna Gray in February and finished it in the beginning of March. This is the first in a YA fantasy trilogy, I believe. Debut author. We have this... What do we have? Okay, so we are in the city of La Cosa. Okay, magic doesn't exist anymore, but it used to. We have 16-year-old Kofi, who's an indentured servant, basically, to this night zoo that has all of these, like, different magical creatures, dangerous creatures that they showcase, you know, every night. Think of it kind of like a carnival show type of thing. Ekon, 17 years old, he is about to become a member of the Son of the Six, which is like an elite warrior in this town. And then stuff happens. There's the Shaitani, which is like this notoriously like known monster in this forest. And anyways, Kofi and Ekon, for varying reasons, have to work together to go into this forest and find the Shaitani. There's also some like political stuff, like Kofi's like people are like the lower class. Okay, let me stop right there. Let me tell y'all what was going wrong with this for me. The world building was so lacking in this. Like, I really could not gauge like how this world worked at all. We never get an explanation about why there's like this like political turmoil between these two ethnic groups, like why one is treated worse than the other. We don't get any explanation of that historically. We don't get any explanation about how the magic really works or how the gods work. Why did the gods leave to begin with? Like, nothing. The world building is so whack. And also the two main characters, like, were just kind of very flat and boring. And I'm not gonna lie, like, I hated every moment reading this book, which is so disappointing because I was so excited to read this book and it's been getting so much praise. And, you know, I don't want to knock on, you know, a Black woman's work. You know, I'm here to see Black women thriving, but man, I really did not like this book. I really didn't. And, yeah, I'm just disappointed. What can I say? It did not hit for me. I'm sorry. But if it sounds interesting to you, I don't want to dissuade you. Because like I said, a lot of people like this book. So maybe it's just me. I don't know. Alrighty. The next book that I read was Restore Me by J.L. Seegers. This is an indie romance that was published earlier I think it was like back in January maybe. So we have Sloane. Her husband passed away like 5 years ago. She has not really dated anyone or been with anyone since. Dominic was her husband's best friend. Him and her like have always like never been like on this eye to eye. They've hated each other. They're always like bickering whenever they're together and stuff like that. So I guess it's also kind of enemies to lovers. She does something with like decorating. Does she have a decorating business? I don't know, but he like works in construction and they're like working together on this hotel. I don't know. Something, they gotta work with each other, okay? And then, you know, obviously one thing leads to another. I don't know how to explain romance books, obviously. Like, they get together and they're like, you know, it's actually like pretty complicated because she's like dealing with like being with someone for the first time, and the fact that it's also like her husband's best friend, so she's like working through a lot of like internalized guilt and all that stuff. And anyways, I enjoyed it. Okay. I'm so bad at explaining romance books. I really enjoyed it. I liked that it was like a bit more complicated and like dealing with some of these like more like deeper themes. I will say that I thought it was a little bit too long for a romance book. It was like 400-ish pages. And a part of it just started to get like really repetitive. So that's my only critique. But otherwise, I really enjoyed it. I thought they had great chemistry. Good stuff. 3 stars, 3.5 stars. And then I read a book for a video that I was going to do. I was going to do another thriller taste test video where I read legal thrillers, but that whole video did not pan out. I'm still planning on doing that at a later date, but I did not have the time. But I did read one book for that video, and that was While Justice Sleeps by Stacey Abrams. This is a legal thriller. Avery is a law clerk for a Supreme Court justice. He goes into a coma and has left her as his power of attorney, and she is like, why? Why am I his power of attorney? And there's like this whole situation. Like, he leaves her like clues and stuff because he's been investigating some like kind of corrupting that's happening with a case that's come before the court. And so she gets led on this kind of like wild goose chase, like trying to figure out what's going on and all of that stuff. And it was perfectly fine. It was a book that was written. I did not feel much about it. I feel like very indifferent towards it. I give it 3 stars. It was okay. And that's about it, and I don't really have much else to say about it. Right, I read another romance, Electric Idol. This is the second book in the Dark Olympus series by Katie Robert. This is following Psyche and Eros. Psyche has gotten on the bad side of Aphrodite. She sends Eros, her son / minion, to go and kill her, but he couldn't do it. They get married because he thinks that if they're married, that will protect her from Aphrodite. Spoiler alert, not really. But anyways, so they like get fake married, I guess. Well, they get real married, but plan on like divorcing after a while. And what can I say? I liked Psyche and Eros's relationship a lot more than I did Hades and Persephone from Neon Gods, which is interesting to say. Both, I gave Neon Gods 3 stars. I gave this one 3 stars. I feel like a lot of the same issues that I had in Neon Gods stayed the same here, and that's mainly to do with the world building, which I'm gonna be honest, when I'm reading a romance, I don't want to be worried about the world building. So especially when it's like maybe loosely fantasy based. But here's the thing, Katie Roberts has given just enough that now I'm thinking like, wait, what happens in this situation? What happens here? Like, wait, how does the political system work? Wait, like, are they actually gods? Or are they just, like, being a Demeter, is that a title? Like, how does this work? Is there magic? I'm confused whether or not there's actually magic work here. It's like, just a little bit too much that now I need to know more, and now I'm bothered by the lack of world building. So yeah, that stayed the same, maybe even worse, because like there was a lot more like political stuff going on in this, and I'm like, I don't understand how the politics work in this. But yeah, it was fine. Will I continue reading in this series? Like, probably. I'll be honest, like it does enough for me, you know. But I feel like I'm just going to continue to have the same problems, and they're all going to be 3 stars for me. But I like to be entertained sometimes, you know? Sometimes I'm just reading for entertainment, you know? What can I say? I read another romance. This one was a hit, okay? This one was great. The Roughest Draft by Emily Wibberley and Austin Sigmund Broca. Apparently these two are married. The authors are married, which is like, and they wrote this book together, which I think is just so cute because this book is about 2 authors who co-wrote books. They had a big falling out like 4 years ago, and now due to certain circumstances, they have to come back and write another book together. But they like, bro, like they hate each other. And like, let me tell you, these fights, I felt like I needed popcorn. Like, I felt like I shouldn't have been there because they were dragging each other. And I was like, holy shit. And the tension in this book, okay. Best tension. Best romantic and sexual tension I've read in a romance book in a long time. But I'm going to warn y'all right now, for you spicy readers, okay? And I love a good spicy romance. This is very low spice, okay? There's only one scene, on one spicy scene, and it's basically fade to black. And I know a lot of people love their spice in romance, I get it, but don't let that discourage you from reading this book, because honestly, sometimes I feel like with spicy romances, there's like too many spice scenes, and it takes away from the actual development of the like romantic relationship. Anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. But like the development of the relationship, and it's like a kind of vaguely second chance romance. It's just, it's like good soup, you know what I'm saying? I really enjoyed this. I feel like if you love Emily Henry, you'll really enjoy this. I also feel like if you're someone who doesn't read a lot of romance and wants to try getting into romance, I think this would be perfect for you. And I also, like, the best way, like, the first thing I thought of after finishing this book is that, like, if Sally Rooney and Emily Henry had a baby, it would be this book. Except less literary fiction-y, but you get what I'm saying. Anyways, check it out. I really, really like this one. Then I read what has to be, I think, so far, we're only in May right now, but I think So far, this is my favorite book of the year. The Love Songs of W.E.B. Du Bois by Honorée Fannin Jeffers. Wow. Man, I was so intimidated by this book for so long because look how thick it is. It's almost 800 pages. Can you just imagine like how intimidating an 800-page historical literary fiction book is? You know what I'm saying? But I kept hearing that this was like perfect for fans of like Homegoing by Ya Jassy and Pachinko by Min Jin Lee, which are two of my favorite books, okay? And I've been wanting to read it, and it was my the March book for my local book club. So I was like, damn. And considering how large this is, I read this so quickly. Like, I read it over the course of 2 weeks, but like, I read the majority of it over the course of a few days, like during my spring break. And I could not put this down because I just needed to know what happened. And it's not like a fast-paced book. This is, I didn't mention it, this is a multi-generational story about a family. I don't know what else to say besides that. We're primarily following, who are we? Ailey. She's kind of, if we were to have a main protagonist, it would be her because we keep coming back to her. We're watching her grow up and then go to college and then go to grad school where she like undertakes a project to like look up her family's history, and then we're kind of learning that as we go along. It goes from like, you know, prior to colonization with some of the Creek tribe that was like a part of her family, and then like slavery, and then all the way through. And it's just so good. Honorée Fannin Jeffers is a poet, and you can really see that in this book because the writing is so beautiful and so lyrical, but without feeling like overly pedantic. It's a very readable book. Like I said, like I read it so quickly, and I just had to I had to know what was gonna happen. And like every content warning under the sun, to be quite honest, is in this book. It is a hard book to read. It's very sad. It's very troubling. Lots of bad things happen in this book, as you can imagine, given the scope. And just as a warning, I thought I was going to cry more, but I didn't until I reached this part at the end of Lydia's chapters. If you know what I'm talking about, I just like had a moment where I like was shocked. And then I closed the book and I went and got a towel and just like sobbed into this towel. It's a lot. It's a lot, okay? But this is like, I think, my favorite book so far of the year. It's so good. Yeah, you should read it. And then another favorite that I read right after. I needed something a lot more chill after I finished Love Songs. And yeah, so I picked up Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. This like blew up on Twitter like a couple months ago. So this is a self-published fantasy, but it just got picked up by Tor or Orbit. I don't remember which one. This is it's described as a novel of high fantasy and low stakes. This is just like the cozy fantasy book that I've been wanting, that I didn't know I needed. Okay, like it's so good. So we have Viv. She is an orc. She used to be a mercenary. She's retiring now because she wants to open a coffee shop. So she does. And basically we're just following her as she is opening up this coffee shop, all of the people that she meets and that come and help her. It is just like so chill. It's like slice of life. Like if you're someone that loves a slice of life story, a slice of life anime perhaps, you'll enjoy this. Like it was just everything. I want 5 million more series in this world and with these characters. I just had a great time. It's like really quick to read. I really wanted coffee while reading this also. I drank a lot of coffee while reading this. So great stuff, great artwork, chef's kiss. I almost forgot to let you guys know that I read volumes 1 through 4 of Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. Loved it. Amazing. It's super cute. Wholesome goodness. I love it. It was so good. I have watched the first episode of the TV show. Also great. I'm going to finish that up soon. Good soup. Good soup. Then in April, didn't really read much. But I did read Isha at Last by Uzma Jalaluddin. This is a Muslim Pride and Prejudice retelling-ish. Very loose on the Pride and Prejudice, to be quite honest. But this was so much fun. I really enjoyed it. It was so sweet and so cute and honestly like really romantic to read. And who do we have? We have Isha. She is a poet, but she works as a substitute teacher. And she's just kind of like dissatisfied with her life. Her younger cousin is about to get married. We have Khalid, who is, you know, a very conservative Muslim guy, like very religious. And he is about to get married to Hafsa, unbeknownst to him, I guess. Anyways, the romance is between Isha and Khalid. There's like this whole situation. There's like a whole, like, Isha is pretending to be Hafsa at some point. It's a whole thing, okay? But it was so drama filled. I felt like I was watching a drama or something like that. But it was so much fun. It was just really cute, and I loved it. And I really want to check out this author's other book. What is it called? Hana Khan Carries On. I want to check that out. But anyways, I really like this one. And then I'm just going to talk about it all at once because I read it over the course of the month. But I read volumes 7 through 13 of Doro Haydero by Q Hayashida. I watched the anime first, and then I picked up where the anime ended. Picked up the manga from that point. And what can I even say? This is like such a wild story. Basically, we have Kaiman. He has a lizard's head, but a human body. And he has no memory of his life prior to a certain point. And he's trying to figure out like who he is and also like what happened to his real head. And we're in this world where there are people with magic. They're called sorcerers, and they all have like different kinds of magic. And then he lives in the hole where it's like people who don't have magic. Anyway, it's like this whole thing. It's very complicated to explain, but he and some other people are trying to figure out like what happened to him. And that's kind of like the basic premise, because like it turns into this whole situation. Okay, I'm not even done with the manga, but like just at the point that I'm at, I'm like, oh my god, this has become a different story. Anyways, I loved it. I especially love the anime, but I love this. It is so like ridiculous in the best ways. It's very gratuitously violent. I will give a warning on that. Also, like the manga, like I don't know what's going on. But the mangaka really loves titties, okay? Like the amount of naked titties in this series is kind of obnoxious, to be quite honest. I didn't notice it because like they didn't really do that in the anime when they adapted it, but I was like, oh yeah, nice. And then I read the manga and I was like, why is there titties everywhere? So just as a warning. But other than that, and other than some other weird issues that I have, I really enjoy this series and I am going to finish it. Good stuff. Okay. And then I read a book that I really did not like. That was Finley Donovan is Killing It by Elle Cosimano. This is like, I guess, a cozy mystery or like a comedy mystery. And this is like doing really well. You know, it's like really popular. And I feel like this series, no hate, okay? But, I really did not like this book. This is how I've seen it pitched, and this is how I see people talk about it. Like that this is this like super funny, like wacky, wild story about a woman who gets mistakenly thought of as a contract killer. It's all fun and games, okay? Nothing about this book was funny to me. Just like, I don't know if like the humor did not click for me. Like me and Elle Cosimano like have completely different senses of humor, which is fine. But like so much of the stuff that was happening in this book was like actually like really serious. And the tone, like it's supposed to be dark humor, but it didn't get like funny enough. And then there were other points where it was like too serious. So like on one hand, it's like not serious enough. And then on other hands, it's too serious. Like, I just feel like tonally this book was all over the place. I did not utter a single chuckle reading this book, okay? And Finley is a hot fucking mess, okay? I get it, you know? Your life has been upended. Your husband cheated on you, and he's a piece of shit, okay? You have to raise these kids. It's a hot mess, okay? I understand that she's struggling, and I, like, don't blame her for the situation that she's in. But the way that she's handling it is just, I'm like, is this not a grown woman? She read so much as, like, a quirky YA protagonist rather than a 30-year-old woman, a mother, and a grown adult. You know what I'm saying? And it seemed like she hated her kids. I'm like, do you care about your kids at all? Like, why can't you get a job? Like, why can't you get a job to supplement your income while you're writing? Because you're not even writing anyways. I'm sorry, this book, listen, me and Finley, we would have beef in real life. I'm just saying. It just didn't make sense because, like, she just, like, I don't know. I don't want to, like, I don't know what it's like. I am a single dingle gal. 0 children. I'm not living that lifestyle. But it just felt really weird to me that, like, she was not, like, actually doing her job, like her writing job. She was not trying to get a job. And she and the other thing. So her nanny comes and, like, lives with her full time. And they, like, work together. And then there's, like, the whole murder part of it, too. I'm all over the place. Finley solving this murder, like, didn't make any sense to me because, I'm sorry, she's too stupid to live. How was she making all of these leaps? And none of it was explained. Like, the ending, spoiler alert right now. The ending, when she figured out it was the dude from the dog shelter who killed that guy, the husband, and figured it out based on, like, the belt situation and then made that leap because, like, oh, he wears a belt. How did we get there? How did we get there? I don't understand it. I don't understand it at all. It just, this, like, all these, like, Finley solving, and then 2 love interests, I'm all over the place. This book gets me so heated because it was so, I'm sorry, but it was so stupid to me. The 2 love interests, the cop telling her all this information about an active investigation, like, and then I hated the way that the nanny was written. What was her name? Vera? I don't know if she's supposed to be a Latina character. I assumed she is because she was, like, speaking Spanish and, like, her last name and all that stuff. But, like, if she was not there, Finley could not have handled any of this. I just don't like that we have this nanny character that's a woman of color who is basically holding it down, okay? And then, what was it? There was something else that really bothered me. Oh, I listened to this on audio. I listened to the audiobook. And the audiobook narrator is, like, a white woman from Wisconsin and was doing, like, this kind of vague, like, accented voice whenever she was, like, speaking as Vera, but didn't do that for any other character, like, didn't, like, change her voice at all. It was just really weird to me. Like, what was that? That has nothing to do with, like, the author, but, like, I don't know. I did not like this book. I'm sorry that I just ranted for, like, this is already a really long video and I just spent all this time ranting about this book. But then I read An Arc of Book Lovers by Emily Henry. Great stuff. Love it. Love that one. We have Nora. She is the woman that is always left behind. So picture it. You know, all of those, like, small town romances where the, like, protagonist goes to the small town. They're, like, worked in some, like, high-powered position before they go to the small town for whatever reason, and they always fall in love with, like, the small town girl or the small town guy or whatever, right? And then leave, and they're usually with someone beforehand, and they leave them because they're like, oh, you're, like, you take life too seriously or something like that. Nora is the woman from the city that always gets left behind when the dude goes to the small town, okay? This has happened to her 3 times, okay? So she ends up going to a small town herself with her sister before her sister has her baby. They're just like trying to like have this sister vacation. Then she runs into Charlie, who is an editor. They had a previous run-in a few years back and like got off on the wrong foot. But anyways, they have to work together on a book because she's an agent and he's an editor and blah blah blah. So it's just like a small town vibes, but like they're the two people that like would get left behind. Anyway, it was very cute. It just, I don't know what to say. I loved it. I loved it. Then I read volume 1 of Miss Marvel, the G. Willow Wilson run. I liked it. It was really good. I do have regrets reading it now because the TV show is coming out in June, and I heard that they changed her powers and I didn't really care. But now that I read it and like saw how cool her powers were, I'm a little bit bummed that they changed her powers. I'm still excited to watch the TV show, but yeah, I actually got like volumes like 2 through 6 from my library. It's sitting on my nightstand right now that I'm gonna read this month. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. Maybe I'm becoming a comics girly. I don't know. I've been wanting to get into comics, but like especially with Marvel or just like the superhero ones, like there's so much. It's like kind of daunting to like figure out like where to even begin. But Miss Marvel is like pretty self-contained, so I'm just gonna stick with that for now. This was the April pick for my local book club. This is The Collected Schizophrenias by Esme Wei-Jun Wang. This is a collection of non-fiction essays written by this author talking about the collected schizophrenias and her personal experience with schizoaffective disorder. I enjoyed this. I learned a lot from it. But there were 2 things that I do wish that the author went into a little bit more, although I understand why she may have not have and why it might not have been her lane. But first, I wish she talked a little bit more about her experience specifically as a woman of color with schizoaffective disorder and how navigating the mental health space, like how that was for her specifically as a woman of color. But I heard that she's like a really private person and like didn't actually like want to write a memoir, why this is like a collection of essays rather than like specifically talking about her life. So I get it. The other thing, and the one that I think I understand is probably not her lane, but she talks a little bit about like involuntary hospitalization, and I would have liked to know a little bit more about that and its connection to the prison industrial complex. But there are some other books that I've since looked up and found about that, so I'm gonna read that. But anyways, I thought this was really good, and I think that she's a really good writer as well. So, and that is it. Wow, this is a really long video. I've been filming for like almost an hour now, and this is gonna be a wild time to edit. But those are the books that I read in the last few months. Hopefully I will be more consistent on here. My summer plans include studying for the bar exam. I actually just like looked at my study plan for the bar prep that I spent a lot of money on, and it seems like I will not be having a hot girl summer as I imagined, but that's okay. Just got to get this over with. But I'm hoping that I will still have some time to like film. I will be reading. I have a lot of plans. Hopefully they will come into fruition. But I will check y'all in the next video.